Hello, Odudu. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time for this conversation. So we met a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I think, not even very long ago, at an AI roundtable. It was such an amazing space to be in. And during that time, I kind of saw you as someone who is very thoughtful and considered about things. Seem like you're very much, how can I say? I think I from listening to you and hearing you speak, you had like an essence of like you're very connected to yourself and your spirit. You're very open-minded and you are sort of have a mission to help people. That's what I gained from like different things that you would say. Um, and yeah, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to our audience. Odudu, over to you.
Thank you for your kind words. So, yes, in short, I help the lost, stuck, or unfulfilled discover and live their definition of success. And I do that in a wide range of ways from coaching, either one to one or group, motivational talks, as well as workshops. So I do it with individuals as well as organizations, whether it's corporations or charities.
Amazing. And I had the pleasure of starting to read your book. Why am I not successful yet? And I really love the concept of it. I think it's phenomenal because a lot of people, when they think about, oh, I'm gonna write a book, they think, okay, I need to have accomplished like so many different things. I need to get to this point and then I can talk about it and write a book about it. But I loved how you introduced it. You said, this book is about I thought I would be here in my life right now, but I'm not. So I'm actually going to be introspective and analyze why and make this a journey that we can both go on to improve ourselves and get ourselves closer to where we want to be. And I've not quite finished the book yet, but I feel like it would perhaps take you on a journey where you will discover actually I am successful. I am successful in these sorts of ways. And yeah, I'd love you to share, since you published that book in 2022, how has that impacted your journey and sort of what was your plan when you put this out into the world?
Well, first of all, I'm truly humbled that you bought the book and that you've already started reading it. So thank you. Second of all, and with the book itself, so the origin story was I always wanted to write a book, but as you said, I didn't feel I was qualified to write one.
Mm,
So in 2019, there was a question that just came up on my head, which was if I had no choice but to write a book that day without learning anything new, what would I call it? So the book originally was called Why I'm Not Successful Yet. And in retrospect, it was going to be a series of excuses as to why I wasn't successful at the time, because I always felt I was supposed to be successful and also felt other people sensed that as well. They would almost talk to me like, and as a kid, I was considered a high achiever, high aptitude, all of those things, even considered gifted and a photographic memory. And during that time in my life as well, because I always wanted to write a book, I started from that premise, but it almost became a journey in which three different other elements of my journey came into one thing. So you had that going on one side. The other side was during the pandemic. I felt a real sense of
mm,
unfulfillment. And
mhm,
I had been someone who I would be considered a polymath in terms of the person who has become quite adept at many different things because I've had a squiggly line
mm,
career. And
mhm,
even though there's so many people who have spoken about how much I've helped them, whether it's them personally or family or those connected to them, I felt unfulfilled. And actually those
mm,
hearing those things made me feel more hollow. So I started looking into a career that many people said I should do, which was life coach and
mhm,
motivational speaker, which I dismissed.
mm,
Throughout all of my working life in different contexts I've
mhm,
been in, many people who had no connection to each other would say similar things. And then when I researched where he taught to be a coach, my takeaway was, oh, this is already who I am. So
Mm.
I'm now working on becoming a coach where I'm making myself my first client in terms of, all right, my challenge is finding fulfillment. Now, that started maybe in 2020. So the book was one disconnected thing, which back then I was actually doing music and tutoring, amongst many other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw that as a sort of secondary income. Then, as I'm working for as a coach, working on my own challenges,
Mm.
it's not quite connecting, but over time it does. What truly connects it
Mm.
is when I've asked to deliver a motivational talk during the pandemic, and
Oh.
it was to so it's to a youth council. So this was in the Tower Hamlets, and this was
Mm-hmm.
at a time when the youth council. So for those who don't know youth councils, young people can adopt positions of power in their borough, and they get the opportunity to connect with their adult counterparts.
Mm.
So if you're in the youth council of Tower Hamlets, you will get to speak
Ah,
to
I
and work
see.
with councillors of that borough, as well as the mayor, as well
Mm-hmm.
as potential MPs.
Wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
many of them felt disenfranchised. So
Mm.
I was asked to come up with a talk to inspire them. So the talk was called How to Plan 100 Years into the Future. And
Oh,
that came
okay.
from me, and that came from me observing quite a few different cultures of prominence, whether it was the Jewish culture across the past few
Mm.
hundred years, whether the Southeast Asian culture across the same period of time, and similar to African culture as well. And the biggest takeaway I got from studying culture across those many years was there was a correlation between how intentional you are for however long and your outcomes. So
Mm-hmm.
the most prosperous cultures were really intentional for a long period of time. It wasn't just a case of I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do this for my lifetime.
Mm.
Most cultures that achieved level of prosperity ended up thinking and working towards outcomes that they was okay with never seeing in their lifetime.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yeah,
And
so it's
that's how I came up.
multi-generational planning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, I have to mention these three elements, but they all come together. So this
Mm-hmm.
is how I
Yeah.
created my framework called VGBR, which stands for Vision, Goals, Values, and Rituals,
Mm-hmm.
because I then recognize
Mm-hmm.
the truest solution to unfulfillment is to align your lifestyle to what you want out of life.
Mm. So give us an example of what that looks like.
So, to answer your first question, what I was looking for in terms of putting the book out of the world into the world was really my own salvation, my
Mm-hmm.
own journey of really improving on myself and just sharing it to hopefully inspires others, whether they read my journey or whether they take some stuff from it
Mm-hmm.
and apply it to themselves. Now, to answer your second question, what it can look like is, let's say, as an example, I want to be healthy or I want to lose weight. So, in that same circumstance, I would then look at my lifestyle. So, all right, what do I do in terms of nutrition? So, I actually
Mm-hmm.
do this with clients where we will look into their eating habits. And rather than me saying, okay, go from complete sweets and sugars to just fruits,
Mm-hmm.
I may look in, okay, what fruits do I actually like? Let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like grapes, bananas, apples. All right. So, if I'm going to eat fruit, let me just only eat those. And if I've got a bad relationship with sugar, when do I most likely eat sugar? So, for me, I would most likely eat sugar. I feel the craving straight after I've had something savory. So, what I
Mm.
would then do is I would experiment eating certain fruits whenever I crave the sugar for cookies and donuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, grapes didn't satisfy that sugar craving, but bananas did. So
Mm-hmm.
now, rather than me trying to do an action, I'm trying to incorporate it in my being. So consistency is a different muscle than intensity. So
Mm.
rather than me
Yeah,
think to myself,
definitely.
I'm only going to do something for 12 weeks and then I'm done, it was about making it a smaller habit that I can attach to who I am and do almost forever. So rather than seen as a
Yeah.
temporary habit, I'm starting to build piece by piece sustainable habits. And that's just one area. So it's about cultivating your lifestyle based on factors that can really influence your chances. Similarly, if I'm trying to be healthy, who am I around? How many of them are healthy? How many of them are unhealthy?
Mm-hmm.
There can be
Mm-hmm.
so many factors from what you watch to what you read to what you listen to, who you're around, and the communities you're a part of. And you just piece by piece cultivating your lifestyle to that outcome, whether it's career, whether
Yeah.
it's relationships, whether it's health, or just personal happiness or personal growth.
Yeah, and I really like the idea that you're saying there of when you're trying to change something, instead of going, 100 miles an hour, just take something small, something you can sort of, I guess what you suggested is like switching it in for something you're already doing. So it makes it so much more accessible to just in that
Yes.
moment where
And
you would normally do that thing, you ask yourself another question and take a slightly different action. Um, yeah, that's so interesting. And I'd love to hear more about um, just going back to your book, the importance of understanding what your definition of success is. Like, what, what would you say to that?
so, how I would often ask people to help discover it is I would ask them two questions. One, if you won £100 million, but you still had to work or run a business, what would your day-to-day life look like?
Mm,
That in itself can sometimes it can take people a full year to figure that out. Some people it can take a day, some people can take five, ten
wow.
minutes
Mm,
because it's already in their heart.
hmm.
And then the second question is if Netflix was to shoot a documentary on your day-to-day life from when
Oh.
you got the £100 million, how
Mm,
would you want to be described as a person in the documentary? And how
mm.
would you want to be described as to how you lived your life?
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, there's a very unique questions. Yeah, I'll definitely need to take pause to answer that for myself. And from asking these questions with who you work with, how has it helped them get the clarity they need?
Well, one thing I will say is clarity can reveal itself in layers. And sometimes you may have to work for or work towards one particular definition to recognize it's something else you wanted. So I work with a wide range of people. Many may want it piece by piece and they're not quite sure. But it's funny because when you work with older adults, most people know what they want. They've just gone through an experience that's led them to believe it's either not possible for them or it's not possible, period.
Mm,
And
mm,
while some of those things may be true, for example, I wanted to be a football player. I mean, I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30, so the chance of that is not necessarily going to happen. However, what can really help is you understanding the reason why you want what you say you want, because that can
mm,
reveal what you truly want. An example
mm-hmm,
would be someone may want to become a football player because they just love this sense of freedom. They love this sense of exhilaration. They love the sense of excitement. So that just means you want
mm-hmm.
the exhilaration, excitement, and freedom. And the beautiful thing about life is there's more than one way of achieving those things.
Yeah. No, it's so true that it's so interesting that you say that because um in terms of like success, there are those sort of template things that you just get told are successful. Oh, someone's rich, someone is famous, the classic things. But actually, when you sort of break it down, as to what is successful, it boils down to usually just quite fundamental basic things, and it usually isn't money itself, it isn't fame itself, it has other underlying reasons, like the need for being famous is probably more about being being recognized and valued in some sort of way. Is that really fame? Do you get that only from fame? Probably not. There's other ways that you can fulfill that. And like you said, you want to be a footballer, but then what do people associate with football players? Okay, they're well known, they're revered for their skills, they're rich, they get paid, they get paid a ton. But they also have the element of, because of the financial rewards that they get, they have the freedom to travel, to go to places, have nice things, and um, yeah, perhaps when you do break it down, why do I want this, and keep asking the question, why, you may come to a different conclusion as to what success really is for you. And that's what I have really enjoyed about reading your book, because there's a lot of activities that sort of prompt you to ask yourself these questions so that you can get to whatever your definition of success is. And yeah, I'd love to know, um, since you've written the book now, have any of your sort of views or opinions changed, or have you seen that it's sort of opened up to your eyes to things you weren't of back then when you wrote it?
Great question. I would say with writing the book, and I might actually add this in the second version of the book, where
Mm,
cultivating the life you truly want is one task within itself. The other challenge is protecting it. So
mm,
if so one of the concepts in the book, I talk about your tree of good enough, where you cultivate the roots, the branches, and the leaves, being your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and your confidence. All three things are different. We can conflate all three. And for quickly, self-esteem is to do with your sense of deserve. Do I believe I deserve this?
mhm,
Self-confidence is to do with your natural qualities that increase your chances of achieving what you want. For
mm,
example, if you're naturally patient and being a teacher requires patience, that's going to be a line of your
mm,
life that's going to help cultivate self-confidence. Versus if you is
mhm,
not a natural quality of yours. And confidence is just to do with technical skills. Can I run a session? Can I behave? Can I manage the behavior of a person?
mm,
However,
mhm,
and I do touch on it in the book, but however beautiful a tree is, you need to be even better at dealing with the weeds. The weeds are
that's a good
anybody
one.
or
Yeah.
entity or
Mm,
environment or even life circumstances that
mhm,
can affect the tree.
yeah.
One of the greatest ways you can deal with that is boundaries. But what I would have, from what my learnings, because from when I wrote the book, a lot of life circumstances happened. And it's the greatest irony
Mm,
because the deeper I've become in my coaching and personal and professional development journey, the more life situations have happened to me externally and
mm,
internally.
mhm,
And the irony is, I'm of course better, I'm stronger, better equipped to deal with those things. But that
mm,
would be where I place the emphasis. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Whether it is people in your life who had known you as one version of yourself
mhm,
and you may have transitioned, it might mean you have to limit contact with that person. It may mean you have a completely
mhm,
different circle, and that gets you greater outcomes than where you was before. So that would be the
mhm.
biggest thing. And I had 9 values in my book before. I would put a 10th one, which is give and receive.
Ooh,
Because
and to elaborate on that more.
so a lot of people typically do one or the other, not necessarily both. So I work with a lot of people who are givers because maybe they are leaders in their community or in their families or even their business. But what can happen is they can see life and giving or help as something that they do. They don't receive help. And with receive isn't just
Mm.
about just
Yeah.
taking what
Mm-hmm.
someone offers. Receive is also about asking for what you
Mm-hmm.
want as well.
Yeah.
And some
Mm-hmm.
people can have challenges. This was a part of my journey before I wrote the book, which was I used to be really bad at accepting other people's generosity. And some people can let pride, ego, or emotion stop them from receiving
Mm-hmm.
blessings that they've truly deserved. Whether they have this idea that they're supposed to struggle for what they get out of life,
Yeah.
or they have to do it themselves. When you can receive a blessing just because of who you are as a person, rather than you have not done the quote unquote technical stuff.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I would say the biggest thing would be as you cultivate your tree of good enough and your tree of being,
Mm-hmm.
protecting it against the weeds
Mm.
is even more important, as well as giving, but always being prepared to ask for what you want. Because as much as you deserve to give, you deserve to receive.
Yeah, I think that that is a really, really important point, and I'm so glad you said it because it's I think in ways people kind of associate more value to giving, but then there's the ego and the pride when it comes to receiving. But actually, for all of us to benefit from the giving part, we also need to be willing to receive. And actually, allowing someone to give to you, it's also a gift to them. So I think it's up to us to be open enough that we receive as much as we give, because it's a two-way street. It's beneficial on both ends. Like being able to give and having someone receive it is something that brings fulfillment to people. So when someone does offer their help, um be willing to accept that. And then sometimes people are just like, oh, but if I receive too much from them, then it's like I will need to give it back to them, and it feels kind of like a transaction, but it doesn't need to feel transactional, because you can receive something from someone, and even if you're not in a position to give back in a way that you think can help them, you can pass it down to someone else along the line, and that chain continues. And it doesn't need to be like for like. They can give you something, and you give them something else, and it gives them just as much joy. So no, I'm so glad that you said that. It's so important to be able to receive too. um and I would like to kind of close things up now. When back to when you wrote that and you said, why am I not successful yet? Or that, I hope I'm remembering the title right. um
Yes, you got it
if
right.
you were to write yeah, if you were to write a book again today, so let's just say now you haven't let's just say you're at the point today where you're asking yourself, what book would I write again now? The same question that you asked yourself back then. What would your new book title be if you were to do it again right now?
So there's almost a bit of a cheat code. So the first one, in terms of a low-hanging piece of fruit, would be questions that may help your life, volume one. So on my TikTok, I ask an open question. I'll just record a video and I'll just ask an open question and invite people to answer in the comments. What I will probably do, which I'm going to do at some point, is organize the questions I've asked. About maybe over close to 200 questions I've asked so far.
Wow.
I
Mm-hmm.
may well organize some of those questions in different categories and also share my
Mm-hmm.
answer to each one. And the reason
Mm.
why is because it feeds into what I've already done. And one of the things I've been making a point of is being very clear. Again, I can't be speaking on helping people with clarity if the messaging isn't clear.
Mm-hmm.
So also a big part of my journey is all of who I am and what I do, whenever I explain it to someone, I know I've done it well when someone says, that makes sense. So from when I meet people, the way I am as a person, if I then tell them I wrote a book, they either say it or their face tells me, yeah, that makes sense. So the next organic step would be, as I have asked these questions from a place of, you know what, asking myself, if I have to be on social media, what's going to be the easiest way for me to do it without me overthinking? That's how the content came about. So the next logical step would be to organize the questions in certain formats. It might be, this chapter is a series of questions that can help you in health. This chapter is a series of questions, or this part of the book is a series of questions that can help you in this category. Go to the chapters or the parts that resonate most with you. That is just organic. So I would go with that.
Yeah. I love that. And I would love to know what these 200 questions are, because it's great for like even just journal prompting, like questions to ask yourself. And you come across as such an introspective person. It would be nice to have a little sneak peek into your mind. So yeah, I look forward to following your journey further. Thank you so much for sharing everything you have. For anyone who wants to play a part in answering your questions that you put on TikTok, where can they follow you, and where can they find out more if they wanted to work with you?
Beautiful. And by the way, thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation. So to answer your question, at Emilio underscore is how you can find me on TikTok. So that is EMMILLIO. And I'll send the link to you so that anyone who wanted to just
Yes,
have a
thank you.
conversation, whether it's, you know what, this is what I'm going through, I just need half an hour of your time to talk it out, I'll send you the link for that. It's literally, the link is let's talk. Because from my personal perspective, life and we as people can change one conversation at a time.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's so true. And I love this conversation. It's definitely given me so much to think about. And I wish you a wonderful day going ahead. Thank you,
Thank you.
Odudu.
You too.